The Life and Philosophy of Jeremy Bentham, The Principles of Morals and Legislation. Imagine a world where every action is judged by the happiness it creates. A world where laws, ethics, and decisions are driven by a single principle: the greatest good for the greatest number. This is the world of Jeremy Bentham, the man who reshaped philosophy and laid the groundwork for modern utilitarianism. Let's embark on a journey into his life, ideas, and lasting impact. A Curious Mind. The early years of Jeremy Bentham. In the crisp London winter of February 15th, 1748, a child was born who would change the way the world thought about ethics, law, and governance. Jeremy Bentham, a precocious boy with an insatiable curiosity, was reading Latin and Greek by the time he was 4. His father, a prosperous attorney, had grand ambitions for young Jeremy, envisioning a brilliant legal career. But Jeremy had other plans. Unlike his peers at Westminster School and later at Queen's College, Oxford, Bentham found himself disillusioned with the rigidity of legal education. He saw laws not as sacred doctrines, but as tools meant to serve humanity. One question haunted him: what makes an action right or wrong? The answer, he would later conclude, lay in happiness. The birth of utilitarianism, Bentham's most significant contribution to philosophy, was his principle of utility. It is the greatest happiness of the greatest number that is the measure of right and wrong. He rejected the idea that morality was dictated by divine command or traditional customs. Instead, he argued that actions should be judged by their consequences, specifically the pleasure and pain they produce. To measure happiness, Bentham devised the philosophic calculus, a method of quantifying pleasure and pain. He considered factors like intensity, duration, certainty, and proximity to determine the moral worth of an action. It was an ambitious, almost mathematical approach to ethics. His seminal work, Us, An Introduction to the Principles of Morals and Legislation, 1789, laid the foundation for modern utilitarian thought. Bentham's philosophy would influence legal reform, economics, and political theory, eventually shaping thinkers like John Stuart Mill. Bentham's legacy in law and society. Bentham was not just a philosopher. He was a relentless advocate for legal reform. He despised the arcane and often cruel legal system of his time, branding it as nonsense upon stilts. His ideas led to major changes, including prison reform. Bentham proposed the panopticon, a prison designed for constant observation, which later influenced modern surveillance theory, democracy, and rights. He championed universal suffrage, gender equality, and decriminalization of homosexuality, radical ideas for his era. Economic policy. He promoted free trade and opposed monopolies, advocating for policies that maximized social welfare. Quotes by Jeremy Bentham with explanations. The greatest happiness of the greatest number is the foundation of morals and legislation. Explanation. Bentham's core idea: ethics should be based on maximizing happiness. Lawyers are the only persons in whom ignorance of the law is not punished. Explanation. A witty critique of the legal profession. The power of the lawyer is in the uncertainty of the law. Explanation. Bentham believed the complexity of law served the interests of lawyers rather than society. Bentham's auto-icon, his unusual posthumous legacy. True to his eccentric nature, Bentham left behind a rather peculiar request that his body be preserved and displayed in a glass case. Today, his auto-icon sits in University College London with his mummified head, later replaced by a wax version, reminding visitors of his enduring legacy. Why Bentham still matters. Bentham's ideas continue to influence modern debates on law, ethics, and governance. His radical belief in rational policymaking and evidence-based decisions laid the groundwork for contemporary utilitarianism, impacting everything from human rights to economic policies. So, the next time you hear about policies designed to maximize well-being, know that you're witnessing Bentham's philosophy in action. Jeremy Bentham's The Principles of Morals and Legislation is one of the foundational works of utilitarianism, a moral and legal philosophy that evaluates actions and laws based on their consequences. Bentham argues that the best laws and ethical principles are those that maximize overall happiness and minimize suffering. At the heart of the book is the greatest happiness principle, which states that an action or law is right if it promotes the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Bentham believes that human behavior is governed by two fundamental forces, pleasure and pain. Since people naturally seek pleasure and avoid pain, morality and legislation should be structured in a way that aligns with this human tendency. The book is divided into two major sections: the foundations of morality and utilitarianism, principles of legislation and punishment 1. The foundations of morality and utilitarianism. The principle of utility. Bentham defines utility as the tendency of an action to produce benefit, advantage, pleasure, good, or happiness, or to prevent harm, pain, or suffering. He argues that utility should be the sole criterion for evaluating both individual actions and laws. To determine whether an action is morally right or wrong, Bentham suggests considering 4 key factors related to pleasure and pain. Intensity. How strong is the pleasure or pain? Duration. How long does it last? Certainty or uncertainty? How likely is it to occur? Proximity or remoteness? How soon will it happen? Additionally, when evaluating the overall effects of an action, Bentham introduces 3 more factors. Fecundity. Does the action lead to more pleasure or pain in the future? Purity. Is the pleasure free from painful consequences? Extent. How many people are affected? For Bentham, these considerations form the basis of a rational approach to ethics and lawmaking. He believes that by quantifying pleasure and pain, society can create policies that maximize happiness. Critique of traditional morality. Bentham criticizes moral theories that rely on abstract concepts like natural rights, divine will, or tradition. He sees such ideas as vague and subjective, leading to laws and moral codes that are arbitrary and inconsistent. Instead, he argues for a scientific and empirical approach to morality, where ethical rules are justified based on their measurable impact on human well-being. Principles of legislation and punishment. The role of law in society. Bentham views laws as tools for social engineering meant to promote the greatest happiness. He argues that good legislation should prevent actions that cause harm, encourage actions that increase public well-being, use punishment effectively to deter wrongdoing. However, he emphasizes that punishment should only be used when necessary and should never create more suffering than it prevents. The purpose of punishment. Bentham outlines 4 key goals of punishment. Deterrence, discouraging people from committing crimes. Reformation, changing the behavior of offenders. Incapacitation, preventing offenders from causing further harm. Retribution, ensuring justice is served, though Bentham downplays vengeance, as a goal. He also argues that punishments should be proportionate to the crime. Excessive punishment leads to unnecessary suffering, while insufficient punishment fails to deter crime. Legal systems and government. Bentham advocates for legal reforms that make laws more transparent, rational, and aligned with the principle of utility. He believes that laws should be clear and understandable to all citizens, consistently applied without favoritism, adaptable to changing social needs. He is also critical of outdated or oppressive laws, arguing that they often serve the interests of the powerful rather than the common good. Bentham's legacy. Bentham's ideas laid the foundation for modern utilitarianism and influenced legal and political reforms worldwide. His approach to law and ethics continues to shape debates in criminal justice, policymaking, and human rights. While later thinkers like John Stuart Mill refined and modified utilitarianism, Bentham's work remains a cornerstone of the philosophy. His emphasis on rational decision-making, cost-benefit analysis, and maximizing happiness can be seen in contemporary discussions on government policy, economics, and ethics. This summary captures the key points of Bentham's work in clear and accessible language. Let me know if you'd like me to elaborate on any specific sections. From legal reforms to prison designs, Jeremy Bentham's impact is still alive today. If you enjoyed this deep dive into his life and ideas, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more thought-provoking content. See you in the next one.